know that the president of the United States makes comments on the one hand, calling for the president to completely pardon Netanyahu and saying how great a prime minister he is, and then on the other hand, he can say something the complete opposite the next day. We've been on the Donald Trump roller coaster with regard to Iran and negotiations now for several weeks. So I'm not sure that anybody's going to read too deeply into one comment that the president makes. If he continues to make comments like that, then I think it could potentially have a bigger effect.
So, Alex, then help me understand this. Keeping aside whatever Donald Trump has been saying, what's the general sentiment? Because as we know, the Israeli society seems divided since this war has been started. And there are several voices that are now speaking against the prime minister. What is the general sentiment? What is the public feeling at the moment, months ahead of the elections that are supposed to take place?
Well, the same people that are criticizing the prime minister and calling for him to step down now are the same ones that were calling for him to step down even before this war began. You had five consecutive election cycles, all of which were basically a referendum over whether Netanyahu was fit to continue serving as the prime minister of Israel. And while the prime minister is by far and away the most unpopular politician in Israel, he's also at the same time the most popular politician in Israel, and the one that polls show is the most suited to actually be the prime minister and the most likely to form a coalition. So, you have the same voices that have been trying to get Netanyahu out of office for many years, still trying to do that. And most of those voices are also concentrated in the majority of the Israeli media.
Mm-hmm. So, do you not think, Alex, that, what a lot of people are saying, that the kind of escalation that we've seen from the Israeli forces as far as Lebanon is concerned is a strategy by Prime Minister Netanyahu to divert from the kind of corruption trials that he's facing back home? Because many do believe that this is his strategy to elongate this war as much as possible.
I think that that's a view that is being spread outside of the country, within the country. Most of the country supports Israel's continued fight against Hezbollah. They see Hezbollah on Israel's border as an existential threat, one that needs to be dealt with. In fact, there are many people in Israel saying that Netanyahu is being too cautious with regard to the fight against Hezbollah. And it's believed that even if somebody else would replace Netanyahu, whether that would be a Gadi Eisenkot or a Naftali Bennett, that they would continue Netanyahu's policies with regard to the war. Really, at home, it's just a question of the accountability over what happened on October 7th being seen as a major security failure that may point back up to Netanyahu, or just the fact that Netanyahu has been in office now for nearly 20 years, and that in a democracy, it's best to rotate your leaders a little bit more frequently.
All right, I'll leave it there. Let's wait and watch what happens and what the future holds for the political career, as Donald Trump said, for Benjamin Netanyahu. Thanks very much, Alex Trayman, for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thanks for having me.
All right, with that, let's shift our focus now. Another high-profile individual is testifying in the Epstein file scandal in the United States. This time, it is billionaire Bill Gates. The Microsoft co-founder's testimony takes place in a closed-door hearing in front of the House Oversight Committee. Remember, Bill Gates has in the past denied any knowledge of wrongdoing of criminal abusive acts by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Gates first came under scrutiny after his name and emails appeared several times in the 3 million pages of the files that were released by the Department of Justice. It now remains to be seen what publicly emerges from this hearing. Now, Bill Gates is part of a small list of powerful people that have been called on by the Congress to testify despite the files being out in the public for months now. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had testified, remember, in February this year to avoid a possible contempt vote by the Congress. All All right, let me go across to Susan Teherani, my colleague. She's joining us live from New York at the moment. Susan, this is an important day for Bill Gates. There's been a lot of pressure on Bill Gates as far as the Epstein files is concerned. What are we expecting today? A while back, he did reach the oversight committee there. What do we expect, and what's the general sentiment right now as far as Bill Gates' alleged involvement is concerned?
Yeah, it is a very important day, not only for Bill Gates, but for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, as you mentioned, it's clear that Bill Gates said that he viewed being in contact with Jeffrey Epstein as a mistake. He's also said that he didn't know about any wrongdoing during the time that he was associating with Jeffrey Epstein. But nonetheless, lawmakers have a lot of questions. And while this is going to be behind closed doors, this testimony, we as the public are expected to see the transcripts very soon. So maybe it will shed light on some of the issues that he hasn't talked about before. But remember, Gates, like all other witnesses that have testified behind closed doors, they can plead the fifth. They can choose what questions they don't want to answer. But nonetheless, it just demonstrates that the issue of Jeffrey Epstein, the way the Justice Department handled this file, and the stories of the victims really is not going away anytime soon. And perhaps maybe we'll get some kind of understanding about these powerful individuals and why they associated themselves with Epstein to such a great extent. But I think the transcripts are going to be very telling.
Suzanne, it's also interesting how Bill Gates perhaps has never spoken about it, but Melinda Gates has. She has not shied away from speaking about this entire Epstein scandal involving Bill Gates. Any sort of influence that's coming in from there, because it's obviously interesting when your former wife speaks about such things.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up. Remember, the first time that she gave an interview after her divorce from Bill Gates, the first interview, while she didn't explicitly say that one of the reasons she separated from Gates was his association with Epstein, but she did mention that she just did not like the fact that he would continuously associate with Epstein, have dinners with Epstein, and would continue doing so despite the fact that Melinda would say that she doesn't want her husband to be associated with Epstein. And then after the Epstein case really blew up, she was, again, a vocal advocate for the victims. And also, she just felt like she knew that Epstein was bad news and for Bill Gates to be associated with him. But we're hearing from Bill Gates himself that he said he had no knowledge that anything was happening. So, yeah, two very different accounts of their impression of Jeffrey Epstein.
All right, let's wait and watch what happens today. Susan, thanks very much for joining us at the moment for the latest. All right, with that, let's also tell you how the House Republicans have approved a nearly $70 billion funding package to advance President Donald Trump's immigration agenda through the rest of his second term. The House Republicans have approved a nearly $70 billion funding, remember, and this is through his entire second term. The vote breaks a long-running deadlock in Congress over immigration enforcement funding. The bill provides a major financial boost to the Department of Homeland Security and key enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. The Republican-controlled Senate cleared the bill last week after an extended voting session. The House passed it by a narrow 214 to 212 margin in a vote that fell largely along party lines. Speaker Mike Johnson relied on near-total Republican unity to push the measure across the finish line after weeks of intense whip operations.
We have 3 full years of funding now, and there is not a Democrat here who voted to support that. But what we've done now by funding it for 3 years is we've taken away their ability to cut that funding, to block that funding, or to take hostage the funding for the remainder of the Trump administration.
Meanwhile, Democrats strongly opposed the bill. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries accused Republicans of expanding what he called President Trump's mass deportation machine.
To give ICE and Donald Trump's violent mass deportation machine another $70 billion blank check with no oversight, no accountability, and no guardrails. We believe immigration enforcement should be fair, just, and humane. But instead, Republicans have decided to continue to waste taxpayer dollars to jam Donald Trump's extreme right-wing ideology down the throats of the American people.
The new funding comes on top of the nearly $140 billion already approved last year for ICE and Customs and Border Protection under Donald Trump's landmark tax and spending package. The vote marks a major legislative win for the White House and hands the administration significant new resources to expand immigration enforcement. Shifting our focus now to India, a major political storm has engulfed the Trinamool Congress as the party is now facing a massive mutiny. Leaders are openly defying the top brass and some of the members have already broken ties with the party. Amid the chaos and uncertainty, the TMC's top two leaders, Mamata Banerjee and Abhishek Banerjee, have turned to New Delhi. Both leaders held a series of meetings with Congress leaders Sonia and Rahul Gandhi, and as per reports, Sonia Gandhi has offered Mamata Banerjee the option to merge her party with the Congress. This comes as the exodus continues to unfold in the TMC. And the latest leader to break ranks with the party has been Sushmita Dev. She announced her resignation from the TMC earlier today, but she stopped short of announcing her next political move.
I have resigned from All India Trinamool Congress and also as Member of Parliament from Rajya Sabha due to both personal and political reasons. I will announce my next move in future.
Now, Sushmita Dev joins the list of other high-profile figures that have left the TMC in the recent days, including Rajya Sabha MP Shukendu Shekhar Roy, party leader Ajmal Siddiqui, the TMC's Assam chief Abhijit Majumdar, and the national spokesperson Shantanu Sen. Mamata Banerjee is fighting twin revolts within the TMC. 20 members of the parliament have rebelled and they've expressed a willingness to join the ruling NDA bloc. Reports also suggest that Shawnee Ghosh is one of the MPs who is considering joining this rebel group. In the State Assembly, 58 of the party's 80 MLAs have decided to back the rebel leader Ritabrata Banerjee for the post of Leader of Opposition in the West Bengal Legislative Assembly. A political row has erupted over Election Commission cancelling the Rajya Sabha nomination of Congress leader Meenakshi Natarajan. The Election Commission of India has rejected Natarajan's upper house nomination on the claim that the Congress leader failed to disclose the details of a criminal case against her. The lawmaker, who is a candidate from Madhya Pradesh, has appeared in front of the poll body officials to present her case. The Congress leaders have slammed the Election Commission's decision, calling it a subversion of democracy. The party has asked the poll body to reverse its decision. Lawmakers say that the summons from Telangana court issued to Natarajan are part of a pre-cognizance inquiry and not formal criminal proceedings. The BJP, meanwhile, had earlier raised an objection to the Rajya Sabha candidate's nomination, claiming that Meenakshi Natarajan had not revealed material information related to the case in her affidavit. Now, the section relevant to such disclosures falls under Indian Constitution's Representation of the People Act. This law mandates disclosure by candidates in the following two situations. Scenario number 1, if the candidate is accused of an offence punishable with imprisonment of 2 years or more in a pending case where charges have been framed by a competent court. Or scenario number 2, if the candidate has been convicted of an offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 1 year or more. Shifting our focus now, Mexico is witnessing protests as it prepares to host the FIFA World Cup. Thousands of teachers are staging peaceful protests in Mexico City to express their anger over the government's pension reforms. These are visuals from Mexico City, where protesters blocked the road leading to the World Cup stadium. The demonstration was led by a breakaway faction of the CNTE Teachers Union. This comes after a week of demonstrations that President Claudia Sheinbaum has described as a provocation.
We're not right-wing, as has been said. We don't look for repression. On the contrary, we look for our demands to be listened to. We know the world's eyes at this moment are on our country, and in education there are still pending issues.
As protesters marched closer to the Azteca Stadium, a police blockade prevented them from reaching the venue, which will host the opening match of the World Cup on Thursday. The CNTE Teachers Union has been on strike since last week, demanding a salary raise and the reversal of a pension law. However, the government has refused to accept the demands. The teachers have also called for joint demonstrations with families of the so-called disappeared persons who are alleged to have been killed or abducted by criminal gangs, or in some cases the authorities as well. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, meanwhile, has said that the government would not repress the protests. Her government has issued a decree suspending classes and calling for offices to function remotely. She's also assured the public that the opening ceremony of the World Cup will go as planned.
A decree was issued today in the official Gazette of the Federation to work is suspended on the 11th at all public and private offices. Luisa Maria is going to explain in what sense this decree is in place so that it can be carried out, that there is no traffic, that there are no problems on the day of the inauguration of the World Cup.
Somali referee Omar Artan has said that he had valid documents and a visa to travel to the US, while an American official said that he was denied entry due to suspected terrorist links. Artan returned to the Somalian capital of Mogadishu on Wednesday morning after he was denied entry into the United States ahead of the World Cup. The 34-year-old Artan was awarded Africa's Referee of the Year in 2025 and was on course to become the first Somali to officiate at football's greatest event. The Somalian government said that it had unsuccessfully tried to engage American authorities and FIFA to secure his entry before boarding the plane from Turkey to Somalia. Artan said that he was grateful to FIFA for their support, despite the world body confirming that he would not officiate at the tournament.
Now, I feel very good now. And I wanted to thank for FIFA for supporting me all the way, and Somali people also. So I'm very grateful for FIFA and for CAF also. So this is what I had to say.
A U.S. State Department official told media agency AFP that the referee was associated with suspected members of terrorist organizations and therefore making the traveler ineligible for admission to the U.S. However, no further details were provided, while the head of the White House task force for the World Cup said that some officials have been denied visas for good reason. U.S. Customs and Border Protection earlier said that Artan was denied entry due to vetting concerns during a routine check. Somalia, remember, is one of the nearly 40 countries subjected to new travel restrictions under the Trump administration. Pilots flying Pope Leo were in for a surprise when the pontiff briefly sat in the cockpit while on his way to Barcelona. Take a look at those visuals. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Race to Power. But before we go, just a reminder to our viewers in India that the 2026 FIFA World Cup will be live on Unite 8 Sports and digital streaming app Z5 from the 11th of June till the 19th of July. All 104 matches will be live exclusively on Unite 8 Sports channels and Z5.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. Around 169 buildings have been totally reduced to rubble. Every time there's a warning, they just come to this public area where there are around 200 tents, and they reside for a while, and then they go back to their home. Some of the Lebanese people enjoying their time, celebrating, singing, dancing, and some others forcibly displaced. From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION The World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur